In the courtroom, we see Donald Trump for who he is. He's been convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault, and he committed financial fraud. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's been working, lowering healthcare costs and making big corporations pay their fair share. This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
It is the truth, because right now they don't have anything. The Trumpy Trumps are desperately trying every trick in the book, using AI, using slow motion, using things out of context. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to finish? It's all the same rubbish. President Biden attended a Juneteenth event, didn't dance. Oh, look at Biden, he's got just whatever it is. And the craziest thing is not just lunatics on social media. Some of the online magazines and publications also go with it. It is just chasing clicks.
That video was... Okay, let's talk about Juneteenth. The president stood there listening to the music and he didn't dance. Excuse me, I did not know not dancing was a health issue.
That's all they're doing. The truth is out there, but they're not really bothered.
Especially worried about the fact that this appears to be a pattern that we're seeing more of.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation, and so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation. And I'll quote the Washington Post, where they wrote about this, and they said how Republicans use misleading videos to attack Biden in a 24-hour period. And to their credit, we have a conservative Washington Examiner did call them out as well, calling out the New York Post. Ironically, several recent cheap fakes actually attacked the president for thanking troops. That is what they're attacking the president for. Both in Normandy this happened, and again in Italy. And I think that it tells you everything that we need to know about how desperate Republicans are here. Instead of talking about the president's performance in office, and what I mean by that is his legislative wins, what he's been able to do for the American people across the country, we're seeing these deep fakes, these manipulated videos, and it is, again, done in bad faith.
Was it Kellyanne Conway said that Ben Carson and Trump were in a church, black church, by the way, strangely, not a lot of black people there, claimed there was 8,000 people. Rachel Maddow got it perfect, by the way. Perfect.
But he goes to this black church in Detroit, and his campaign does not take any steps to avoid the pews being completely filled with white people, with white Trump supporters. Then on the day, the message of his supposed campaign is that he's trying to appeal to black voters, right? That's the whole point of doing this photo op. He then goes straight from that venue, stuffed with white people, to a conference hosted by this guy, who has been in the news for the last few months for saying, quote, "We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s, saying that he thinks black people are not qualified to be airline pilots, that he worries if he's on a flight and sees that the pilot is black, who has been posting things like, quote, whiteness is great on social media, who has been hosting guests on his podcast to talk about how black people are inherently biologically inferior and incapable of advanced intelligence. Someone who said literally MLK, meaning Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., quote, MLK was awful, not a good person. So on the day your campaign message is, hey, black voters, look at me, aren't I appealing? Going from the black church that's inexplicably full of white people right from there to go be with, to go do an appearance with the MLK was awful and the Civil Rights Act was a mistake guy. If that's how you're running your campaign, you are not trying very hard in normal campaign terms. But they are not trying very hard in normal campaign terms. They're not trying very hard to compete on normal political appeals. What they are trying to do instead is take power by menacing and chasing out of the country anyone who opposes their leader.
So I was talking to a newspaper editor not so long ago in Ohio, actually, and I was talking about a story I'd seen on social media, and they said, "What story is that?" And they said, "Oh, it's on Twitter or X or whatever Elon Musk calls it." And they said, seriously, nobody really is looking to that particular platform as a source of reliable news. And that, to me, is really important. Just because maybe Don Trump Jr., Charlie Kirk, Elon Musk retweet something, or a few of these other places get loads and loads of, I don't know, looks, likes, whatever it is, it doesn't mean jack shite. All right, let's deal with a simple fact right now. They're trying to push this thing that Biden has cognitive issues. If anyone has cognitive issues, well, the evidence is there. It is just plain right in front of you to see. Come on.
Joe Biden has no plan. He's got absolutely no plan. He doesn't even know what the word inflation means. I don't think if you gave him a quiz, I think he should take a cognitive test like I did. I took a cognitive test and I aced it. Dr. Ronnie Johnson.
This moment with Donald Trump over the weekend where he was talking about the White House doctor, the former White House doctor who was there when Biden was actually vice president, and said this about him.
I think he should take a cognitive test like I did. I took a cognitive test and I aced it. Dr. Ronnie Johnson. Does everyone know Ronnie Johnson, congressman from Texas? He was the White House doctor. And he said I was the healthiest president he feels in history, so I liked him very much.
I mean, his name is obviously Dr. Ronnie Jackson. Everyone remembers him from the White House briefings. He's now in Congress and a big supporter of Trump's. But a moment like that, you know, is not treated the same as a Biden moment.
Of course not. That's never going to play on Fox News as Donald Trump being confused, having cognitive issues. It's just not going to be portrayed like that. And I think what the Biden folks take issue with as well is, in their eyes, the mainstream media as well focuses way too much on Biden's age and lets Donald Trump get off with these gaffes without ever questioning his cognitive fitness. There was that Wall Street Journal story that came out a week ago or 2 weeks ago where that questioned whether Biden was fit mentally to run the country, and said that some of these, there have been questions about this, but there have been a lot of former Trump officials who have raised the same issues with Trump, and it doesn't get treated the same way.
Oliver Dortie.
Like day follows night and midday is at 12, this is not something which needs a huge big debate. You haven't got to go off to Harvard or Yale or something and do a big thesis on it. The guy's clueless.
Both of those candidates next week needs to drive that message home. Now, Ashley's looking at me skeptically.
I'm just saying, I just feel like Trump throws rocks and he lives in a glass house. Like, he couldn't get the man's name right, and he's talking about his opponent's cognitive ability. Stop it. Also,
now, you don't have to scroll too far down on the RNC's research account to find posts winking and nodding that Biden isn't all there. Posts like this one, showing Biden at the G7 summit wandering around. Now, the RNC would have you believe that this was all aimlessly. The New York Post saw the video and put the stills on the front page. Meanderer in chief. The problem is, that is also wildly misleading. Biden wasn't staring off into the distance like a puppy distracted by a bird. He was watching a diving demonstration. He had a conversation with those aerial stuntmen.
So I'm not really sure how we deal with Lara Trump. Every day she rocks up to cable news, or Newsmax or Fox, says the same old garbage, and goes about her boring life. And it's rubbish. It is. It is just... She might as well be, I don't know, a sidekick to Jesse Waters or whatever. It's made all up. I do ask the question, though, I'm an outsider looking in. Where is Fox News and the like of Lara Trump taken seriously? Is there anywhere near you or anyone you can pinpoint who actually thinks, oh, Lara Trump speaking, must quote her? Because I've missed it.
The former president, took on the challenge. I don't think he'll regret it. However, the Joe Biden that we're talking about tonight, I don't think will be the Joe Biden we're going to see on debate night. I think the Joe Biden we see on debate night is going to be the guy that we saw at the State of the Union. He's going to be all hyped up. hyper caffeinated, whatever it is. It's interesting that 70% of the country does like the idea of drug testing. I like the idea. They do it to athletes. They do it to horses in horse racing. Why not do it to presidential candidates? I like the idea. 70% of Americans apparently agree with me. However, what do you expect for the debate?
Yeah, well, this is nothing new, of course. The cards have always been stacked against Donald Trump since the day he came down the escalator to announce he was running for president.